On February 28th, during the first wave of U.S.-Israeli attacks on Iran, a missile hit the Shajareh Tayyebeh girls' school. That means good tree. To date, 175 people have perished in the attack, with the majority of them being young girls aged 7 to 12. Apparently, the epic fury they're unleashing is against young Iranian girls. And they wonder why we don't feel very patriotic lately. Hoorah! After it happened, most corporate media all but buried the story. And now Trump is trying to blame Iran for it, saying we don't kill civilians.
Did the United States bomb a girls' elementary school in southern Iran on the first day of the war and kill 175 people?
In my opinion, based on what I've seen, that was done by Iran. Because they're very inaccurate, as you know, with their munitions. They have no accuracy whatsoever. It was done by Iran.
But it's looking like it was indeed the fault of the United States military. According to a story broken on March 5th by Reuters, investigators in the U.S. military believe that it's likely the United States and not Israel who is responsible for this attack. Looks like we're joining in on the time-honored Israeli tradition of blowing up schools full of little kids. So why was a school attacked? Why, despite our apparent advanced surveillance and targeting capabilities, was a school that was visible from satellite imagery painted with colorful murals much like the ones you see behind me? Why was it attacked? And what role does the Pentagon's recent adoption of artificial intelligence play in all this? Did AI help the United States military end the lives of over 100 children? This video won't be lighthearted or funny like the rest of my videos up until this point, but I think it's a really important topic and we need to talk about it. Since the attack, people have taken to social media to claim that the school was a legitimate military target and that they shouldn't have built a school on a military base if they didn't want it attacked. Besides the fact that this is just a demonic take, it's very common to have schools on military bases. America has loads. There are 161 schools that are operated by the Department of Defense. There's actually a whole directory of them. Did you know that you could just Google this on the information superhighway? I actually looked and saw that one of the bases that was attacked in the first wave of retaliatory strikes by Iran actually houses the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet headquarters, and that's in Bahrain. Did you know that there is a U.S.-operated school on that base? You can see it right on satellite imagery. There's a sports field and everything. Somehow, it wasn't attacked. Magic.
They have no accuracy whatsoever.
For the Shajareh Tayyebeh girls' school, you can look on Google Maps and see a sports field and colorful murals. Turns out it could be pretty easy using open source intelligence to figure out what's a school and what's a military installation. And you know the military has better surveillance technology than just Google Maps. So if it's obviously a school, why was it attacked? A recent Al Jazeera report dug into this. The school is a portion of a military base that used to be a barracks over 10 years ago. So if you had extremely outdated intelligence, you might think it's still a military installation. It has walls and gates and a sports field and no military checkpoints like they have for the rest of the base. The report proposes two possibilities. Either US and Israeli forces relied on a very old, outdated intelligence target bank dating to before 2013, which would constitute grave negligence and reckless disregard for civilian lives. Or the strike was carried out deliberately and with prior knowledge to inflict maximum societal shock and undermine popular support for Iran's military establishment. But there's a possibility that the Al Jazeera report isn't considering, and that's that the US bombing of the girls' school could have been a result of its use of AI systems in targeting, and specifically ones that were trained by the IDF in Gaza to commit maximum civilian harm. When I was first researching for this video, I admit that I thought Israel was a culprit for blowing up the girls' school, and that's not for no reason. Israel and its military has a long history of blowing up schools. During the atrocities in Gaza, by early 2025, it was reported that 95.5% of all schools in Gaza were destroyed by the IDF. And reports indicate that the IDF set up a special strike cell to target schools systematically, classifying them as centers of gravity. And it's in this context that artificial intelligence comes into play. It's been proven by a mountain of reporting that the IDF has trained AI systems to commit maximum civilian harm in Gaza. According to a report in Plus 972 magazine titled "A Mass Assassination Factory Inside Israel's Calculated Bombing of Gaza," the IDF implemented an AI targeting system called Hasbara, or Gospel, in order to maximize civilian damage. And later, according to another report by the same magazine, the IDF implemented another AI targeting system dubbed Lavender. According to 6 former IDF officers, Lavender played a central role in its targeting of civilians in Gaza, and it ended up identifying over 37,000 Palestinians as aerial strike targets. And the IDF has given particular attention to what it deems power targets, meaning residential high-rises, universities, and other public buildings. From the report, the idea behind hitting such targets, say 3 intelligence sources who were involved in planning or conducting strikes on power targets in the past, is that a deliberate attack on Palestinian society will exert civil pressure on Hamas. And half of their early targets were these power targets. The report included many sources who previously served for the IDF doing targeting and surveillance. They said that they prioritize damage to civil society and that explicitly or implicitly in their targeting, damage to civilians is the real purpose of these attacks. One of the sources said, "The perception is that it really hurts Hamas when high-rise buildings are taken down because it creates a public reaction in the Gaza Strip and scares the population. The strategic imperative to target residential buildings in order to commit mass civilian harm stems from the so-called Dahiya Doctrine during the Second Lebanon War. This means using overwhelming and disproportionate force against civilian targets as a means of forcing the civilian population to apply pressure to militants to stop their attacks." We saw this logic used throughout the genocide in Gaza, and I fear that the same logic might be extended into the conflict in Iran. Already, Iranians fear that the US and Israel are going to turn Tehran into another Gaza. Israel's development of AI targeting systems into mass killing machines is significant here, and the US and Israeli militaries already have an agreement to share their intelligence and tactics. So I fear that these same blood-trained AI systems will be put in place by the United States. This could mean the US adopting Israel's same tactics of targeting civilian power targets, because that's what their AI has been trained on. US and Israeli military collaboration stretches far back. In 1983, the US and Israel formed the Joint Political Military Group to do their intelligence and military collaboration at a high institutional level. Since then, together, they regularly do joint military exercises and participate in collaborative weapons development and research. If you want to know more about how the American law enforcement and military apparatuses work with Israel, there's a 57-page report from 2018 called Deadly Exchange: The Dangerous Consequences of US-Israel Law Enforcement Exchanges, and I'll link it below. Defense contractors for the two countries are also very heavily intertwined, especially in the area of surveillance and weapons technology. The development of AI for weaponry is spurred by heavy US and Israeli investment. An AP investigation revealed that after October 7th, the IDF started relying very heavily on various AI systems, including OpenAI and Microsoft. The IDF has called AI a game changer in rapidly generating new targets in Gaza. According to the 972 report, their AI targeting system, Lavender, generates so-called kill lists of Palestinians that don't require thorough vetting from human beings to make sure they're not civilians. One source for this report said that human personnel only serve to rubber stamp the machine's decision, and each decision takes about 20 seconds. And this is knowing that there is a 10% error probability in its targeting. That brings us to today. The Wall Street Journal has reported that AI systems have indeed been used for targeting in the new US-Israeli offensive in Iran, namely Anthropic's Claude. Sources from within the military say that it's used in intelligence assessments, target identification, and simulating battle scenarios. I found an Israeli defense contractor website that hypes up the rapidity with which AI can be used to choose targets. The article is called AI in the War Room: Speed, Scale, and Shrinking Human Pause. As in shrinking the amount of human pause between choosing a target to bomb and that bomb dropping on them. The article reads, "Recent operations against Iran indicate how artificial intelligence is reshaping that timeline. In the first 12 hours of the joint campaign, nearly 900 strikes were reportedly carried out, a pace that in previous conflicts would have required days or weeks. Analysts attribute part of this acceleration to AI systems capable of processing drone feeds, satellite imagery, and communications intercepts at machine speed. That's right, you can process drone feeds and satellite imagery to choose targets to bomb at speeds never before seen. Isn't that epic? Now, how might this affect things like, I don't know, accidentally choosing a target that's a school full of children? The article continues. By aggregating large datasets and identifying patterns across multiple sources, these tools reduce the manual burden on human teams. Commanders technically remain in the loop, but the window for review is substantially shorter, a phenomenon often described as decision compression. Yeah, let's compress those decisions as fast as humanly possible. That's right, we want to take humans out of the equation so we can drop more and more bombs on more and more targets as fast as possible. I mean, don't take it from me, take it for the Israeli defense contractor that runs this website. The company also organizes joint US-Israeli military playdates in Israel, by the way. Can't make this up. Another article from their website talks about how AI systems might be too embedded in battlefield operations to easily remove. And it talks about them being used in target generation in a way that I find rather disgusting. During the reported strikes, the model provided analytic and simulation support to commanders, helping to refine targeting and anticipate battlefield dynamics. Such applications illustrate why AI systems have attracted interest as force multipliers in defense contexts, where processing vast amounts of data quickly can be a decisive factor. AI systems as force multipliers on the battlefield, processing data for target generation as quickly as possible. Do you see where I'm getting here? How might something like the rapid processing of target data and the compression of human agency cause something like the accidental bombing of a school? The AP report I mentioned revealed new information about AI targeting in Gaza and the ways it can go wrong, involving faulty data and flawed algorithms. The reporting was robust and included interviews with current and former Israeli officials, as well as employees at the AI companies. So there's a documented history of these AI targeting systems being faulty and inaccurate, and these same AI targeting systems are currently being deployed in Iran. Is it possible that due to faulty AI targeting, these systems misinterpreted imagery of the base and didn't realize there was a school on it? Or is it possible that it was analyzing old and outdated intelligence of the base from when the school was still a military barracks? And is it possible that the human officers that were supposed to confirm it didn't cross-check with historical data? Can you really trust an AI not to target civilians? If you ask an LLM for some information, how often does it give you something that's old and outdated? Do you trust an AI to decide who lives and who dies, and how many civilian casualties constitute an acceptable risk? Even precision bombs and missiles have a circular error probable. And do you trust an AI to accurately calculate the total lethal range of different size bombs and to factor in error probability? Do you think if there's a school nearby, the area should be bombed at all? After the news about the girls' school came out, my friend Joe Wilkins reached out to the Pentagon and CENTCOM for comment about whether or not they use Claude in their targeting. Here was their response. "We have nothing for you at this time. Please continue to monitor our social media and X accounts for updates. Go check X.com, the Everything Including War Crimes app." I think there are two possibilities at this point. The first is that they relied on AI systems that can't necessarily be trusted to do accurate targeting, and it ended up bombing a school. And it's not necessarily faulty targeting, in my opinion, because the IDF has trained its AI targeting systems on committing mass civilian harm. It takes away all the human agency. It's easy to write something off as a mistake of AI, but these systems have been trained on the blood of Palestinians. The second possibility is that they meant to target the school. They meant to inflict maximum civilian harm as a misguided way of galvanizing Iranians against the regime. Satellite imagery is very clear that it was a school. If you look at how many schools were destroyed by the IDF and how much willful targeting of civilians they've done, you can only really draw the conclusion that it's part of Israeli national identity to blow up kids. And with the US and Israel engaging in a joint offensive, blowing up a school would be a natural, logical continuation of those tactics. Both of those conclusions are horrible beyond words. And it wouldn't surprise me, given the US and Israel's history of collaboration, that the United States military is absorbing absorbing some very Israeli traits. And now Trump is trying to push the blame on Iran because somehow they have tomahawks, I guess. My guess is that they'll just continue to say, we're the United States military. We would never intentionally target civilians. We're the second most moral army in the world.